UFC 276 Adesanya versus Cannonier takes place this weekend, and I'm going to go through the entire card, starting with the early prelims, ending with the main events, giving my prediction and breakdown for every single fight on the card, and what an amazing card this is. It may be the most stacked UFC card of all time, top to bottom, filled with amazing contests. Let's start straight away with the early prelim opener of Jessica Rose Clark versus Julija Stoliarenko. Well, I said it was stacked top to bottom. I meant kind of it was stacked one from the bottom to the top with amazing matchups, but this one is okay. Jessica Rose Clark versus Julija Stoliarenko, I think is pretty straightforward to predict. Jessica Rose Clark has been working on her grappling recently. I know she got out grappled recently by Stephanie Egger, but Stephanie Egger is like a judoka, Olympic medalist or a national champion in judoka, so she's got a really good grappling background. Jessica Rose Clark has been working at AKA, training her grappling. She used it against Jocelyn Edwards in one of their matchups recently, so I feel as though she's going to use that against Julija Stoliarenko, who has been out grappled so many times in her career so far. I don't even feel like she belongs in the UFC, but I think she took like a fight on short notice to get there in the first place, so I just feel like she's been out grappled. She got submitted in the third round by Julia Avila. Alexis Davis was able to get her down and keep her down at a certain moment as well and land some good shots there and out total striker in that matchup, so I feel as though Jessica Rose Clark is going to be too good on the feet. Maybe it'll be equal on the feet, but I reckon her grappling is going to get her the win here. Julija Stoliarenko just doesn't seem to have anything off of her back whatsoever, so I can see Jessica Rose Clark cruising to a 30-27 unanimous decision with top control. Moving on, up the card, Brad Tavares versus Dricus du Plessis on the early prelims. That's how good this card is. I am going to go with Dricus du Plessis over Brad Tavares. They are even in odds. I just feel as though Brad Tavares, he's had his career. It's this other moment in his career where there's this up-and-comer. I know a lot of people are seeing the KO blows of Dricus du Plessis. I watched Adesanya and Volkanovski break down this matchup, and they went with Brad Tavares because they didn't think that Dricus would be able to KO him. He's a grappler. He is a great grappler. That's what a lot of people don't really understand about Dricus du Plessis. He has resorted to KOing his opponents in his first few fights in the UFC so far. He had some okay moments on the ground against Trevin Giles and landed a big shot when they were on the feet because Giles was able to work his way back up. And of course, Marcus Perez, he just KO'd him in the first round after feeling him out on the feet in the first place. But he is a really good grappler. If you look at his other wins that he has on the regional scene, a guillotine choke, you know, he has a good submission over Yannick Bahati, who was 8-1 at the time. He guillotined him in the first round, and he's really good as well with his guillotines of not needing a takedown to get them on the ground with it. He'll pull a guillotine standing because he's just that physically strong, and he'll like roll them over so he can end up in like a mounted guillotine position, and that way if he doesn't get that mounted guillotine, which he usually does, he's in full mount on top of his opponent, and he's so strong that that's some real dangerous ground and pound coming down on Brad Tavares. I feel as though we're going to see Brad Tavares take some leg kicks early. He's a very boxing heavy guy. I just haven't seen much KO power out of Brad Tavares. And in a 3-rounder against Dricus du Plessis, you're going to end up on the ground. Now, I know Tavares has really good grappling defense. He went to a split decision with Omari Akhmedov in his last fight and showed good grappling defense there. But Omari's more of a regular wrestler type guy. You know, I mean, he went to a decision against Antonio Carlos Jr., showed good grappling defense there as well. But he still makes them really close because he's so focused on defending those takedowns. With a guy with the power of Dricus, if you're focusing on defending his takedowns, you could just get clipped and put away where you can't really against those other guys. And I feel like Dricus is too big, too powerful, and he also pulls for submissions to end in a good position. So he'll shoot a takedown, pull for a leg. He'll shoot a takedown, you'll stuff it, leave your neck in a bad place, he'll get the guillotine and just drag you down with him, or go for like a Darce grip and drag you to the ground with him. I think he's got different entries to get people to the ground rather than just double legs and single legs, and I think that's going to be the difference, and I can see him getting a guillotine finish over Brad Tavares in the second round of this contest. He might take some big shots in the first, though. I just don't see that KO power from Tavares recently. I'm going with Dricus du Plessis getting this one done by submission in the second. Moving on up the card, Jessica Uriah versus Maycee Barber. I am going to be going with Maycee Barber. I actually don't mind the idea of a Jessica Uriah win because Maycee Barber, fair play, she looked okay in her last fight, and Montana De La Rosa is a good women's fighter, and they're hard to come by, especially at women's flyweight. But She looked good against Montana De La Rosa. She had great grappling. I think she'll be able to utilize that here against Jessica Eye. Jessica Eye does have good grappling herself, but I think her time has come, in all honesty. She hasn't really impressed me in her last few performances. Went to a scrappy fight with Jennifer Maia, but got hit with the bigger shots and got a couple of takedowns here and there, but just doesn't really overly look that good in any way. And then Joanne Wood clearly outstruck her, and that doesn't really age too good because Joanne Calderwood's been losing to a lot of opponents recently in the women's flyweight division and getting finished by girls like Taylor Santos and Alexa Grasso. So I feel as though it's time for Maycee Barber to start making her run up the top of the flyweight division. Maybe it was too early, first of all. The loss to Roxanne Modafferi doesn't look too good, but she did tear her ACL and all of her ligaments in her left leg in the middle of that fight. She threw a jab and then backed up on her leg, and her whole leg blew out. So maybe she was trying to fight while injured, and that was the main reason as to why she lost to Roxanne Modafferi. But I think she's really physically strong. She can win this against the cage. She did that to Miranda Maverick towards the end. She shouldn't have beaten Miranda Maverick, just gonna say it, but she was able to push her against the cage in some of those later rounds, land some good elbows there, and I think if she can't get takedowns, she has shown that she can work the clinch against the cage very well, and I think she'll be too big and too strong for Jessica Eye, who's 35. She's going to start to, like, show that decline in her career. You know what I mean? It seems to happen around that age. I'm going to go with Maycee Barber, 24, training hard. Just took a fight after her last one, got right back in there against Jessica Eye. On the feet, it's risky, though. Maybe Eye will have an advantage there, but I can just see Barber getting her up against the cage, landing some big elbows and body shots. And I can just see Jessica Eye lose. I have this image already of Jessica Eye losing and having this really cringe retirement where no one really cares, but they're acting like a legend has been left the sport. You know what I mean? Like, they don't even give a moment to Eddie Wineland, but they gave a moment to, like, Felice Herrig. Like, they're going to give a big moment to Jessica Eye on ABC. Like, you know, let's go, Evil Eye, let's go. And try and get the crowd involved. I can just see a really cringy retirement for Jessica Eye after this. But I think I'm going to go with Maycee Barber. 29-28, close decision, but she gets it done. Plus, the judges are in her favor if it does go slightly Eye's way anyway. Moving on. Up the card, Uriah Hall versus Andre Muniz. I'm going to be going with Andre Muniz here. I just think Uriah Hall's going to get subbed with a rear naked. I think that's what he's going to go for, Andre Muniz. He does like the arm bar, so if he does fall off the rear naked choke, he will switch to that arm. And Uriah Hall does have some long arms, so that is a possibility for him. But I feel like Andre Muniz is going to chop with some kicks early. And Uriah Hall is just so untrustworthy that I can't... It's not an underdog pick that you can trust. Uriah Hall, you're either picking the underdog to beat him, or you're picking him to lose as a favourite. Like, you can't pick him to win as an underdog because he's so inconsistent. And you also can't trust him as a favourite. Like, he's one of those iffy fighters where sometimes he does good and sometimes he does this, but he doesn't look good over here. I think he got a win in the third round against Brad Tavares and looked okay there. Of course, he has that win over Anderson Silva, but Anderson Silva is done in his own career. But I'm looking at the recent fight against Sean Strickland. Got taken down 4 times in that contest. Sean Strickland, in my opinion, is not the level of grappler or submission guy that a guy like Andre Muniz is. And I feel like it's going to be real bad for Uriah Hall. Plus, Strickland doesn't have the power on the feet that Andre Muniz does. So I think that power on the feet from Andre Muniz and just that sheer athleticism and explosiveness and size that Sean Strickland doesn't quite have is going to make Uriah Hall second guess even more. And that's going to lead to him getting taken down as well. And I can just see it so clearly. Both guys landing some decent shots on the feet. Uriah Hall lands something good, feels good about himself, starts coming forward. Andre Muniz times the double leg. Uriah Hall gives his back up. Andre Muniz pounces on it, rear naked chokes him, and puts him out in the first round. Sean Strickland had his back. Tried for some submissions there. He was on top of Uriah Hall, landing some good shots. 4 out of 6 takedowns. Plenty of control time as well. And if you look previously in Uriah Hall's career, he does slow down when he grapples with people. So I do like that as the fight goes on. I mean, he got taken down a lot of times by Antonio Carlos Jr. He worked his way back up, but arguably Antonio Carlos Jr. can win that contest. Uriah Hall got a knockdown in a round and kind of saved him from that moment. But again, this is 2019. This guy's 37 now. Am I going to trust him to pull off an upset? I'm not going to trust an underdog money on Uriah Hall when it's already against him in the odds for him to just go out there and freeze up. Like, he was losing every round to Bevon Lewis. That's not good, man. Losing every round to Bevon Lewis, caught him in the 3rd round and landed, and big whoop, you know, but I just don't like that. Muscled up against the cage. I mean, he got taken down a few times by Jotko and beaten up really badly in the 1st, almost got finished in the 1st round. I just feel like Andre Muniz is going to have that moment where Uriah Hall's on the ground that Jotko had and Strickland had, and when he has it, I think it's a wrap. He's got a different level of submission game, and he's really coming into his prime now, 22-4. He's a problem in the middleweight division. Big guy as well, so I can see Andre Muniz getting this one done by submission in the 1st round with a rear naked choke. Moving on, up the card to the prelims. Jim Miller versus Donald Cerrone. I hate predicting Donald Cerrone fights. They're so annoying. I really don't like this, man. I really kind of want to go with Cerrone here because it's at welterweight and he's not going to be draining himself and he's going to have a better chin. And I'm not sure if Jim Miller's power is going to translate up a division like that. He is an underdog. They don't even have the odds to show me here. I'm going to have to look up the odds. Hang on a second here. Donald Cerrone versus Jim Miller 2 odds. Oh, come on, just show me and don't give me a bunch of nonsense before I get there. They're not just going to show me. They're going to put it at the end of a massive page of stuff. Oh, I feel as though I'm liking Donald Cerrone here at welterweight. I was going to pick against him at 155 because I was thinking he's going to drain weight again this many times back to back to back. I didn't like that for him at all. But now that it's at 170, Miller's not a big guy. Like, he's not a big guy for 170, and I don't think he's going to blitz out Cerrone in the 1st round. I can see this getting a bit scrappy. I really can, and Cerrone is an underdog here, and quite a sizable underdog as well. I mean, Miller's over a 2-1 favourite. Am I going to trust Donald Cerrone in 2022? I like Jim Miller, but Nicholas Motta and Eric Gonzalez are not good opponents. And Selecki beat him quite handily, and I don't really rate Selecki that highly, nor his chin. God, Vince Pichel was able to get it done. Like, I do feel as though Donald Cerrone's going to win this one at 170. I think he's got it. At 170, I like it. He's much bigger. And a Miller ain't that big for a lightweight. 5'7" at lightweight. Like, I think Cerrone's going to be able to survive the 1st round because he won't be as drained from the weight cut. He's been training for fights. Miller has as well. But I think Cerrone's going to be able to rally in those later rounds and get this one done. 29-28 is what I'm going to say. I could see Miller cracking him and hurting him. I don't see him putting him out cold the way he has done to his previous opponents. So I'm going to actually go with Donald Cerrone here in an underdog pick. I think at 170, he shouldn't be that big of an underdog, and this is a 50-50. Either Miller gets him out of there early, or Cerrone rallies in the last 2 rounds. So I'm going to go with Donald Cerrone 29-28 in a fight of the night performance. I've got Cerrone, man. At 170, he ain't half bad against certain opponents. Like, Leon Edwards, he did okay, but everyone does okay. Edwards just chooses to win by the narrowest of margins, but I'm going to go with Donald Cerrone, 29-28 as an underdog. You saw the pain that it caused me to even do that, but I think it's like 50-50. And I don't think those odds represent a welterweight bout between the pair of them. Cerrone's going to be... Miller probably weighs about 165, 170. Cerrone's going to be draining, what, 10 pounds from 180 maybe, or pack on a little bit of muscle for this card. I feel as though Donald Cerrone gets this one done. Bigger guy, less of a weight cut, been training for fights. Cerrone gets it done. 29-28 in a massive scrap of a fight. Moving on. Up the card. Ian Garry versus Gabriel Green. I'm going to be going with Ian Garry over Gabe Green here. I think Gabe Green is a decent underdog. I think he has got a chance to do something, but I think it's going to be too little too late. Ian Garry, a very tall guy for the division. He's got a reach advantage here of an inch and a half. A massive height advantage. That means he's going to be able to use those leg kicks at range, which he likes to do very well. He has good front kicks to the body and head kicks as well, and body kicks. I think this is going to be a good performance from Ian Garry, and he's kind of shaken off the cobwebs of being in the UFC. He's on another card. It's just like a regular thing for him now. I mean, he was on on the prelims of a pay-per-view in his debut. So this, I think, is going to be pretty routine for Ian Garry, and I'm going to trust in him to go out there and beat Gabriel Green. Gabriel Green does have a good chance. He's not a bad underdog, because I think Ian Garry, what are the odds on Ian Garry? He's a decent favourite, not a massive one. So you're not going to rob the betting company with the bet of Gabriel Green here. But Gabe Green is tough. I just think a lot of his wins have come to the flaws of his opponents, and usually that's cardio. Daniel Rodriguez, like in one of his first few fights, was able to just school Gabriel Green on the outside. He eventually started to slow down Philip Rowe and land good shots and sort of pile onto him as the fight went on, and that was when Philip Rowe was a bit younger, and Rowe beat Uriah Koshke, but he's nothing too special in that welterweight division. And then Johan Lainesse was beating up Gabriel Green, and then just completely gassed in the second round, had nothing in the tank at all, and just quit on it, and Gabe Green got a finish there by TKO. I feel as though Ian Garry is long-rangey enough. He'll stick a jab and move at range. I think he's going to have a very bad third round. That's my prediction for this one for Ian Garry. I think he wins the first 2 rounds. He's got that nice switch kick as people come forward. I think that's something to look out for here. Massive height advantage for him in this matchup. I think he'll move backwards, throw that lead head kick on a counter as he fades away. He did that against Jordan Griffin a couple of times. I think he'll stick the jab, land the 2. I think he'll land some really good shots in round 1. Win a competitive round in round 2. And then Gabriel Green is going to be evens with him in round 3 until like the last 2 minutes. Garry starts to slow down a bit, and Gabriel Green starts pouring it on, landing big shots, bloodying up the face of Ian Garry. Everyone's like, oh my god, he's coming back, he's making it happen, and he's getting messy and landing shots, and Gary's shooting takedowns and trying to stall against the cage, and he's getting beaten up a little bit, but I don't think it's going to be enough for a 10-8 round. So I'm going to say 29-28 Ian Garry. This isn't a bad bet. I mean, there's certain fights where like you can see it being a draw. This ain't a bad bet to bet this fight as a draw for some good value. But I'm going to go 29-28 Ian Garry based on the first 2 rounds. Moving on up the card, Robbie Lawler versus Bryan Barberena. I am going to be going with Bryan Barberena here over Robbie Lawler. I just don't see the same Robbie Lawler that I've seen previously in his career. I don't see it. People are picking him. The majority of people on Tapology are picking him, but I think that's usually like a fan pick, to be honest with you. I think that's pretty disingenuous, which might not even be a word. I hope it is. I'm going to go with Bryan Barberena breaking Robbie Lawler as the fight goes on. Matt Brown, I think, is at a better stage in his career than Robbie Lawler is now. I think Lawler's kind of done. He's taken so much damage in his career. He seems to slow down as the fight goes on. He just doesn't seem to get going sometimes. You should have, in reality, Robbie Lawler, destroyed Nick Diaz immediately in that first round. But the shots that I saw Robbie Lawler throwing were just so weak and light, and he doesn't look like he has any power in his shots anymore. You know? I hate to say it because I'm just a guy in my shed critiquing the legend Robbie Lawler. I think he's lost a lot of testosterone. And it happened to Mike Perry at one point. And I think Lawler's lost a lot of that grit, a lot of that explosivity, a lot of that torque in his shots and power behind his blows, and I think he's just going to be a bit of a walkover for Bryan Barberena. Barberena's he was beating up Luke K before Luke K got him in the third round, and Luke K still got that heat and power, you know? And he beat Matt Brown. They say split decision. It was pretty clear. I know some people think Matt Brown should have won, but I think Barberena won that fight pretty clearly. 2-1. He beat Darian Weeks in like a similar fashion than Ian Garry did. Of course, he got Darian Weeks on a week's notice, no pun intended, but still. He can get out grappled at times by like Jason Witt, and people can mix it up against him and stuff like that. But I think if it comes to a stand-up fight between him and Robbie Lawler, I think he's on momentum right now. He's got a 2-fight win streak. I reckon he's going to really rise to the occasion and put on a great performance and just beat up Lawler for 3 rounds. And Lawler's going to be swinging back, and I just see Barberena like hitting him to the body, elbows, like big shots, peppering him away, 1-1-2, 1-1-2, like a Bobby Greenish type performance against a Nasrat Haqparast. I feel like Robbie Lawler is just 40 years of age, and the testosterone is dipping. And even watching him go body shots with Ian Garry, it just looks awkward for him to do things, like a bit robotic, like all of the injuries that he's had have started to sort of pile up on him. And I think Bryan Barberena is going to see this as his big moment to make a name for himself and maybe get some momentum behind his career again and get a big paycheck and re-sign a big contract. So there's so much more for Bryan Barberena to gain. I reckon he'll win this one 30-27, 30-26, maybe with a 10-8 round in the third. Don't see him getting a finish, but I see him beating up Lawler for free. Moving up the card, Brad Riddell versus Jalin Turner. I'm going to go with Jalin Turner here. Brad Riddell's a good fighter. I think he has every chance to win this one. I think his best bet is to try and slow this one down and just land those big shots and make it a shot-for-shot matchup. But Jalin Turner is... I mean, I'm just going to look at the height difference here. I'm going to have to side with him. He's a slight favourite. The majority of people aren't picking him. Just slightly, though. 46% of people are picking him. He's 27. You know, Brad Riddell, like, I know he's new to the game, but he's 30 already. Like, Jalin Turner's like a veteran of MMA. Like, he's been in the UFC for a very long time, since 2018. 4 years in the promotion. His win over Joshua Kalibau with dominance is looking amazing in hindsight, because Kalibau's been looking great at featherweight moving forward. The grappling worries me. Maybe Riddell could grapple him, but I don't see him holding Jalin Turner down. I think Jalin Turner's going to have worked on that part of his game. Luke K's Luke K. He took the spinning elbow and landed a big shot back. That was at welterweight. But it just seems as though Jalin Turner's got such unorthodox reach. His win over Uros Medic has aged very well. He's starting to use grappling to his offense against guys like Uros Medic. He decimated Jamie Mullarkey. Fair play, he cheated by grabbing the glove at one moment, but he was winning before that as well. And it was just sort of like a downwards snowball effect with Jalin Turner, where if he hurts you once, here comes the next 50 strikes and you don't know what they're going to be. And it's just a bit of a problem. And I remember back to the Jamie Mullarkey versus Brad Riddell fight, where Riddell made it quite a tough fight. And Riddell does get rocked in his contests. Like, he does get clipped. He got clipped against Jamie Mullarkey. He just got put away by Rafael Fiziev by TKO. He got clipped by Drew Dober. And he does get hurt in fights. And I think if Jalin Turner senses that moment where Riddell gets hurt, I think he'll be able to pour on the pressure. And I'm looking at the numbers difference here between the pair of them. 6'3" at lightweight, Jalin Turner. This absolute weight bully, piece of absolute garbage. What a weight. 6'3" at lightweight. 75.5 inch reach. I know it says 77 on Google, but it's 75.5 as per his last measurements. So that's a little bit of an update for you guys, I guess, if you're looking at 77 inches of reach. 71.3 inches for Brad Riddell. 5'7". Like, I just think it's such a difference that, like, there's only so much technique can overcome. And Jalin's powerful. It's not like he's a lanky guy for the division with no power and he's just going to pick at you like James Vick. Like, I think he's going to do well here. He takes good shots at lightweight too. He took good blows off of Jamie Mullarkey. I reckon he's going to hurt Brad Riddell, have him stumbled at some point in the late second round, and then pour on a bit of a finish and get like a TKO as Riddell's grabbing onto a single leg, like just punching the side of his ear and stuff like that. So I'm going to go with Jalin Turner getting this one done. Moving on, up the card to the main card. Only 4 fights on the main card now, thank God. Lauren Murphy versus Miesha Tate. I mean, sorry, no, terrible news. Miesha Tate is gone. Anyway, the main card. Thank God Miesha Tate versus Lauren Murphy's off the card. It makes it a better card. Either way, Sean O'Malley versus Pedro Munhoz in the bantamweight division. I am going to go with Sean O'Malley here. It's a tough fight for him, though. It really is a tough stylistic matchup. I'm just not seeing the same Pedro Munhoz recently in his bouts, and I think he's fading again. Look at him, 35 years of age. He's had so many wars in the UFC back and forth, and he didn't look like he was really with it against Dominic Cruz. Sure, he had his moments, but Dominic Cruz was able to move and slip and slide. He got cracked early and still came back and made it happen in those later rounds, even while being semi-concussed. And I just don't really see the same pressure fighter in Pedro Munhoz that I usually see. Like, he has got good leg kicks, but O'Malley has this very good ability to slow fights down. If you look at Marlon Vera's fights, listen, I know he beat O'Malley in the first round. Marlon Vera's fights always start fast. Always do. They're either beating him up or he's going straight for them and beating them up. O'Malley is so elusive and quick and lands good leg kicks of his own that he can slow a fight down really good. Like, he really does stop pressure fighters working against him. And I think Munhoz is just so short, and he's taken a lot of damage in his fights, and he didn't look good against Aldo in the later rounds, and Aldo just started picking him apart as the fight went on. And that's a bit more of like an Aldo just addressing leg kicks and landing some boxing combinations. I think O'Malley's going to kick with him. I think O'Malley's going to do good in this one. Pedro Munhoz obviously has that calf kick ability to where he can just debilitate the leg of Sean O'Malley and make that happen, but O'Malley's still improving as a fighter. He's 27 years of age at bantamweight. Like, this is a really young guy for the sport coming up right now to be taking on a ranked opponent. I trust in Sean O'Malley to get this one done. I think front kicks to the body are money here. He always lands them on his opponents, and I think this will be no different against Pedro Munhoz. So I can see really good front kicks to the body, really good teeps to the body from O'Malley, some spinning back kicks to the body as well against Pedro Munhoz when he finds the time, and if he has Munhoz backing up after he lands like a good right hand or something like that. And I just see Sean O'Malley being able to keep Munhoz guessing with the feints, the power advantage that he's going to have here. Munhoz only seems to do well when people are just trading back and forth in the pocket and planting their feet. Like Jimmy Rivera and Frankie Edgar, they'll plant their feet and start swinging hooks with him, and he'll have some success there, and then chop the leg at the start or the end of the combination. But O'Malley's just so light on his feet, like Dominic Cruz. And I think O'Malley's at that level. I think he is. I think O'Malley's at that level. He's really athletic. He's coming into his prime. He's still nowhere near his prime. Confidence through the roof. Massive range advantage here of 7 inches to work with in the bantamweight division. A 7-inch reach advantage at bantamweight. It's a big reach advantage to have, especially when you're a guy like Sean O'Malley, and he has the longest measurement of legs in the UFC. They mentioned that in his Marlon Vera fight. Both of them have like the biggest leg ratio in terms of length to their body. So he's made for range, and this is going to be in a big octagon on a pay-per-view card, and I can just see him really doing well against Pedro Munhoz here, landing some big shots, front kicks to the body, leg kicks down low, and I think he's just going to be scooting out the way of Munhoz's leg kicks. Munhoz is going to be like patting at his hands, trying to come forward and land something. I think he's going to be missing, and O'Malley's going to be catching him as he fades away with like a straight shot on the counter, like a Dominic Reyes pivot left hand and pivot right hand. I see Sean O'Malley picking him apart here, getting it done. Munhoz hasn't been looking the same recently, and also grappling-wise. Munhoz, the offensive grappling of Munhoz, he might take him down. Munhoz doesn't really take people down. He'll, like, hurt them, they'll shoot on him, and that's where he does his work. He did this against Cody Garbrandt, against Rob Font. He pulled the guillotine after rocking Rob Font. He's not really an offensive grappler, per se. He'll use his grappling as a reactionary situation. Like, Frankie Edgar tried to take him down. He latched up a guillotine, he latched up a leg, and it made Frankie Edgar freak out and give up. He's not really offensive in terms of wrestling, and he's small for the division anyway. Thinking of moving down to flyweight before this matchup, so I'm going to go Sean O'Malley. Moving on up the card, Sean Strickland versus Alex Pereira. This is going to be a long video. I'm going with Sean Strickland. I'm going to go a double up on Sean's on the main card here. I'm going to go with Sean Strickland in the first round by rear naked choke. I think people are not putting together the clues, and I think Sean Strickland is going to go out there and wrestle with Alex Pereira. All I am seeing from Sean Strickland is evidence that he is going to grapple against Alex Pereira. I think he's going to be tricking him. He's going to say, like, all this stuff about doing the man dance. Come on, man, let's do the man dance, you know, and all this type of stuff, and he's going to try and make it happen that way. I don't see Sean Strickland staying on the feet with Alex Pereira for long, especially if Pereira starts landing some good shots. Pereira's good, but it was less than a year ago watching him get out-grappled by Andreas Michailidis for an entire first round. Fair play, he landed a flying knee, but he knew Pereira was going to try and... he knew that Michailidis was going to try and grapple with him. Strickland, look at his Instagram, man. He's got him wrestling with Roy Nelson, trying to make things happen. You know what I mean? He's wrestling with he's been training with Khamzat Chimaev. Hard training with Khamzat Chimaev. You know, Darren Till came over, and Darren Till's prediction is Strickland by submission. Darren Till was in the gym watching Strickland train with Khamzat Chimaev. He's probably having conversations with him in the gym, talking about how he's going to go about things. And Till's prediction was, after leaving Strickland's gym and stopping training with him, Strickland's going to get him down and submit him. I'm seeing the clues that Strickland's going to fake a bravado of let's bang on the feet, when we know Strickland ain't about that all the time. When it comes to, like, I need this win, he'll get the win. Jack Hermansson fight. He could have scrapped there. He talked about how he's so violent. He loves violence, and people trashed him for this. But when it came down to it and he needed the win, he just played it patient, threw the jab, didn't overcommit with any shots, and showed perfect takedown defense against Jack Hermansson. You don't get that good of takedown defense without also being good at wrestling yourself. Alex Pereira hasn't been in the sport for long. He's not going to be training too much with Glover Teixeira as a sparring partner for this matchup because Teixeira took so much damage against Jiri Prochazka. I don't see him training in the gym anytime soon. And I feel as though Sean Strickland's going to get this one done. Training with Khamzat Chimaev. He was training with Eblin, Johnny Eblin, the guy who just out-grappled Gegard Mousasi for 5 rounds. Credited him in his post-fight speech. Shout out Sean Strickland. Thank you for the help in this camp. He's a good grappler at ATT. Strickland's been down there at ATT training with them. I just feel like all of it is leading towards Sean Strickland going out there, getting outstruck a little bit early, landing a couple of shots here and there, because let's face it, Bruno Silva landed a couple of shots here and there, and that was a very close fight that Pereira is actually very grateful to get the decision for, knowing how some of these judges' decisions have gone recently. So I see Sean Strickland, what a tongue twister. I see Sean Strickland going out there, feeling out the stand-up a bit, sort of going, come on, Alex! Yeah, I knew I'd like you. All that type of stuff in the cage, trying to egg him on, and Pereira laughing at it and going, yeah, and like, staying in the pocket looking for his hooks and stuff. And I think Strickland's going to wait for him to start committing in some exchanges, blast a double leg, get him to the ground, start punching him, take the back, and rear naked choke him in round 1. Sean Strickland's submission. Plus, he's an underdog. Pereira hasn't beaten a ranked opponent. His last fight was razor close. I get Bruno Silva was really good, but it's Bruno Silva. Sean Strickland is at the top 5. He's been doing MMA for like, I don't know how long. He's in his 30s now. He's been doing MMA since he was like a late teenager. Like, I don't know about this, man. Pereira's been committed to MMA training for a year. He was doing kickboxing fights a year ago. I think he's going to get out-grappled and submitted. Moving on, up the card to another fight, which is going to be Max Holloway versus Alexander Volkanovski 3, the trilogy. Or Volkanovski versus Holloway 3. I should have said his name first. I believe that Alexander Volkanovski is going to win this matchup against Max Holloway, and I think he's going to win this one by decision again. I know it's not what people want to hear. I think they want a finish in this matchup from either guy, but I feel as though Volkanovski's going to get this one done again. I've seen massive improvements from him. I think he's way improved his game of setting up leg kicks. His leg kick game in the first Holloway fight was just chopping at the legs, inside leg kick, outside leg kick. Holloway started to sort of make reads as the first fight went on, but that was a near blowout, 5 rounds to none. I just rewatched that fight. They put it on YouTube a couple of days ago. That was 5-0 Volk. I don't know how anyone can justify thinking Holloway won the first fight. Second fight, Volk won those last 3 rounds, but I want to mention this. Volk was winning the first 2 rounds before he got knocked down to 1 knee. It wasn't even an official knockdown, but he got hit with big shots and stumbled to 1 knee in those first 2 rounds. Holloway doesn't get knockdowns often. I think those are his only 2 knockdowns that he's had for a very long time, were against Alexander Volkanovski, maybe since the first Aldo fight has he got a knockdown, and those were the only 2 that he's had. If you're betting on Holloway to need to knock Volk down to score himself rounds like he did in a rematch, because those are the only rounds he won. He lost rounds 3, 4, and 5. It's been proven. I feel as though you're really, really betting on something that you shouldn't be betting on. Yeah, you need him to knock him down and hurt Volk. Holloway's never been a power punching guy. He's never been a big, powerful guy. Sure, he started mixing in some flying knees and some more explosive movements, but I feel as though Volk's going to go out there, start lighting him up with the hands a little bit sooner. I think his jab's gotten so much better. If you watched the Volk in the first fight and watched the Volk now, completely different fighters. I think Holloway's improved as well. I'll give him that credit. He started mixing in elbows, mixing in kicks as well to his game a little bit more, but I don't see him going kick for kick with Alexander Volkanovski. And I think Volkanovski, when it comes to timing of this fight being made, Holloway pulled out of their original trilogy schedule, where Volk ended up fighting the Korean Zombie. Holloway pulled out of that fight with an injury. Fair play, he said he was ready to go like a month or 2 later and just reschedule it, so it wasn't a major injury. But I'm feeling like he took an injury in the Yair fight and signed that fight with Volk a little bit too soon. He fought Yair in November, went to war, and took a lot of damage. And then by December, he was already talking about fighting Volk in March. And then he had to pull out of that with loads of time in advance, because I feel like he wasn't quite recovered from something from that Yair fight that maybe was bothering him. Volk has been active. He fought Bryan Ortega in August, came back in March, fought the Korean Zombie, took literally 0 damage in that fight. No damage whatsoever against a Korean Zombie. A couple of shots landed here and there, but no marks on him. Nothing hurt him whatsoever. He's ready to turn right back around. He's been more active than Max Holloway here. Holloway hasn't fought since November, where he took a lot of damage against Yair. A lot of damage. Volk took no damage against a Korean Zombie. A couple of big shots against Ortega. Other than that, it was just submission attempts. So I don't see Holloway being able to do anything on the ground. I see Volk being able to mix in some grappling here. I think that new move that he's used, which is like a sort of I don't even know what it's called, but Zabit uses it a lot in his fights, where he jumps forward and sort of choke slams you and uses his lead leg to sweep out yours and sort of like choke slam you backwards. I think it's like a Russian sweep or something along those lines. I think Volk's going to be able to utilize that against Max Holloway to get his takedowns. He was shooting double legs and single legs the first time, and Yair was able to get a takedown on Holloway at one moment, but he was never expecting it. I think Volk's going to mix in some grappling, start using that little jump in, step in, sweep, where he sweeps that lead leg and choke slams Holloway down for a bit, and start putting his weight on him and kneeing him to the thigh and punching him to the body and kneeing him and elbowing him on the break and stuff like that. I just feel like Volkanovski has always been a nightmare matchup for Holloway. He's way shorter, with a longer reach. Always a problem because Holloway has to like keep his hands low and tuck himself down nice and short. If you look at Holloway's career, the shorter opponents have given him problems. Dennis Bermudez, Frankie Edgar, even in that title fight. I know a lot of people just see it as him beating Edgar, but Edgar made that a pretty competitive fight where Holloway wasn't really able to get going and wasn't able to land good shots or get the volume going because it was always the threat of that takedown, always a threat of getting hit with like an in-tight hook in the close range. And Volk's just got good cardio. Coming off no damage. Holloway's coming off an injury and a lot of damage in his last fight. Even against Cater, he took a lot of physical damage and brain trauma as well. I mean, he got hit so many times in that Calvin Kattar fight. People talk about how good he looked against Kattar, and he did. He looked amazing against Calvin Kattar. But he also took, against Calvin Kattar, 133 significant strikes, and a lot of those were to the head. Big shots to the head against him. I just feel as though Volkanovski's going to have a huge advantage here. He's fresh. Holloway keeps taking more damage. He showed that he wasn't really addressing leg kicks. He got hit by a bunch of them from Yair Rodriguez. And I think Holloway's improved. Volkanovski's improved his way of landing them. Off of the jab, he'll throw an inside leg kick. Before, he would just throw an inside leg kick. Like in the first fight against Holloway. Now he's jabbing, inside leg kick, 2, leg kick. You know what I mean? Jab, leg kick, jab, inside leg kick. Like, I think he's going to not focus on the calf as much. Land a couple of them. Focus on that inside leg, keep himself square, not put so much into those leg kicks, because I think Holloway's going to be looking to head kick, and I don't think he's going to be looking to put too much into those leg kicks, Volk, because I think Holloway's going to be looking to jump knee and land big shots and put some power in his shots against Volk, but I think Volk's just going to win this one. We're kind of betting on Holloway to land knockdowns, because otherwise he would have lost those first 2 rounds against Volk as well, and it would have been 5-0 in the second fight, so we're betting on knockdowns for Holloway or finishing potential, in my opinion. That's just not something good to bet on. And I think Volk's improved his grappling massively. Showed way better grappling against a Korean Zombie. Way better entries on his takedowns. He's not going to get taken down by Holloway. That's a massive advantage for him. I think he's got more game plans to switch up on Holloway than Holloway does for him. Holloway could be thinking going out there, what if he just tries to hard grapple the entire time? What if he's going to grapple way more? What if he's going to do this way more? Whereas Volk's going to be like, okay, is Holloway going to play the volume game and pick at me at range and then try and get momentum? Or is he going to play the power shot game? Those are 2 games within the same realm of MMA. Whereas Volk's got options. Options win fights. And Holloway's taken so much damage in his career. I think Volk's going to hurt him a few times. It's going to stop Holloway from building momentum. And I think Volk's going to win this one 5-0, 4-1. 49-46 is what I'll say on the scorecards, and people will be angry about the decision and say, look, Max is still the best, and 2-1 Max, and they'll never give Volk the credit, but whatever. Volk gets this one done, I reckon. Moving on up the card, Israel Adesanya versus Jared Cannonier. I'm going to be going with Israel Adesanya winning this one by 4th round TKO. I know a lot of people have been posting stuff, and even I posted it earlier this month, saying things like, cool, is he by decision, leg kicks non-stop and stuff like that, but I truly believe that Israel Adesanya is going to go out there, Land some good leg kicks early on Jared Cannonier. Cannonier can deal with leg kicks. He's got good checks on leg kicks. I mean, he checked Anderson Silva's kick and messed him up with it. Landed his own good leg kick there as well and hurt Anderson Silva to the legs. So I think he might try and leg kick with Israel Adesanya, but that's going to play his game too much. I don't think Cannonier's got the range to deal with Izzy. He has got a decent jab, but he was getting easily out-jabbed by Whittaker. So was Adesanya. But Cannonier's still giving up a 2.5-inch reach advantage here. I don't think he has the ability to grapple with Israel Adesanya. He's 38 years of age. You're going to start picking up some injuries in fight camps at that age. I just feel as though Israel Adesanya's got a better chance of winning this one. Should he be a 4-1 favourite? Probably not. He should probably be like a 3-1 or a 2-1 in between that realm. I think he's going to leg kick Cannonier. And I think Cannonier is going to be different to Vettori and Whittaker. The reason why Whittaker and Vettori fights went to a decision, mainly is because Izzy doesn't do anything but like stay at range and leg kick normally. But Vettori is young enough to know that he can have a second chance and a third chance at the world title. I think Vettori's like 27, 28. Like, he's still got a long time in the game. And even if he's losing a fight that's close, he can think in the back of his head, I'll get it next year. I'll get it in 2 years. I'll have another chance after that when I'm 33, when I'm 31, when I'm 29. You know what I'm saying? Like, in the back of his mind, Vettori can accept that defeat by close decision and delude himself into thinking he won. Whittaker was thinking that he won. On the scorecards of MMA, Whittaker won. Like, the way you judge MMA, if you apply that to the Whittaker versus Adesanya fight, Whittaker won rounds 2, 4, and 5 against Adesanya. Clear as day. Close fight, but he won it clearly. So Whittaker's thinking, I'm winning this. I'm out jabbing him. I'm landing better shots. I'm taking him down, mixing that in. I'm winning. I'm not going to step it up. I think Cannonier, being 38, is going to know that this is his last chance ever to get his hands on a world championship. If he loses this, is he going to come back at 40 and make it happen? I doubt it. So I think if he's down 3 close rounds to Israel Adesanya, he's going to start taking some massive risks. And he got dropped by Brunson, man. On the counter. He rushed in against Brunson and got like dropped by a straight right hand from Brunson. Almost finished in that first round. I know the threat of the takedown was there, but I just feel as though he's going to get out leg kicked early. Izzy will front kick him a couple of times in the stomach. Maybe throw some head kicks high and Cannonier will block it with his forearms. Here's another big deal. A lot of opponents have to resort to blocking with their forearms against Izzy's kicks because they're so quick. They're hard to get out the way of and hard to risk getting out the way of because they might still hit you anyway because he's got really long legs. Cannonier shattered his forearm against Whittaker by blocking kicks with his forearm. If you don't think that's going to be bugging him, if he takes a couple of them, blocking them to the body or the head from Israel, I think I trust the conditioning of Israel's shins more than the forearms of Cannonier there. And I think he's just going to take risks in the fourth, knowing that this is his last chance. 38 years of age. He's got to make something happen at this point, or it's never going to happen in his career. And I reckon Jared Cannonier is going to rush in round 4 on a limp to leg. He's going to be destroyed to the legs, rush in, try and make something happen. And he's going to pull away and land like a counter right hand, left hand counter. Down goes Jared Cannonier. Israel Adesanya, 4th round TKO. I swear to God, Israel, if you just leg kick at range for 5 rounds, man, it'll be 5 a.m. when I'm watching you, man. Give us something. You've been talking about how you're going to destroy him. You'll never see anything like it. Please, live up to that. I beg of you. I can't sit through another one of your fights at 5 a.m. I like the technicality, but my word, they are dull. So, please, let's get something going here. Maybe I'm hoping, and that's where this prediction comes from, but I do think Cannonier will be more likely to take a risk, because he's never going to have a chance again, and he will be behind on the scorecards. So I think round 4, Cannonier's like, I'm down 3 rounds, I've got to make something happen. Yeah! And then get clipped. Toodle pip. See you later. Click that button up there. Goodbye.